Welcome back to Kartrider Drift League. Kartrider fans everywhere, my name is Wolf. I'm joined by State. We have our second preseason well underway. We're getting to about the halfway point here of regular season. I think I'm a little bit close there. About halfway through regular season here for our team league. And today is Wednesday. So that means today is the day we have 3 team league matches. We've got 2 really close ones, the ones that could end up having an upset, but we have obviously a very strong team in Kwangdong playing against Showtime later on, so pretty stacked lineup today.
Yeah, Aura versus Liiv SANDBOX to start things off today should be a lot of fun too. Both these teams are looking really strong so far this season, and we were talking in the pre-show how it feels like here in KDL Preseason 2, it's almost a little bit like the rich get richer in terms of skill with how good these top teams have been getting as we get a look at the overview of the team matches today. Starting things out, it will be Aura versus Liiv SANDBOX. And actually, wait, no, that's not the screen just yet. Excuse me, I jumped the gun here. This is the overview for this season.
That's right. Here's all of the schedule, of course, in terms of where we're going. Main stage will end on the 12th, so like I said, we're about halfway through with that, and then we'll move into postseason or playoffs. That'll be on the 15th and 16th, and we'll move into the grand finals on the 23rd, a week later. So a lot of exciting matches still yet to come. I think we don't really have yet a clear picture of who is our best team. But I think you can draw a line around top 4, right? Sensation, I think, one of those teams that could end up making it to that top 4 cutoff, as potential Showtime and Seraphix still yet to take a single win here. Showtime is playing against a tough opponent in KWANGDONGFREECS tonight, so we'll see if they can bounce back. Definitely been a rough start for them in Seraphix.
Yeah, Potential was looking really good in their first couple of matches against some tough opponents in Week 1 and Week 2, but going down 3 sets in this round-robin format, there's only so much Kartrider left to play for them to gain ground. So it really does feel like, you know, Liiv SANDBOX, the Freaks, Songnam Rocks, they're kind of a shoe-in here for the playoffs, whereas Aura and Sensation, they're right on the cusp. And for Aura here in match number 1 against Liiv SANDBOX, this is going to be a pretty crucial one in terms of deciding their fate here in the KDL preseason. Same with Sensation up against Songnam Rocks. These are both these middle-ranking teams going against top-ranking pro teams, and if they can take a win right here, that could be the difference maker when, you know, we come down to the postseason.
Yeah, it certainly could be, and that match for Sensation, I think, is going to be a defining one. If they're able to win it, I think their chances of making playoffs rocket up. As in the first matchup, I actually personally kind of favor Aura here. I think they're on the rise, and Liiv SANDBOX have gone through some health issues and concerns and haven't looked themselves. They've still been dominant, right? Still up at the top of the standings, but haven't been as dominant. And Aura has been looking really good, very improved in speed. So, you know, I want to say, and this sounds like a hipster thing to say, but I kind of want to give like a 51-49 edge to Aura here. I think it could go either way. We might see that ace match there. So I'm really looking forward to this one. And let's go ahead and welcome the players here of Aura onto the stage. One of our big underdog stories of Preseason 1, making that deep playoffs run, nearly qualifying for the finals.
Yeah, and here in Preseason 2, they're even stronger, adding in Looning to their roster. I know you were high on him from the gates in Preseason 1, and so far for Aura, he's been showing up. He's a big part of why this team is starting to excel in speed. He's done a fantastic job of filling in that runner role, and all around, I mean, the Noctec duo there in item mode, plus the improved performance from them in speed, it's just looking like a totally different Aura here at the KDL.
It really is. A very strong team, a well-rounded package here. As their opponents on the side of Liiv SANDBOX have largely recovered from the health issues, the woes they were facing last week. So all players will be playing from the studio today, I'm told, and it's very good news for the fans who've been waiting to see this roster again in its full form. As Neil leading the charge today, And, I mean, this team is no slouch when it comes to speed. Their item mode has been quite strong this season thus far, even with the new patch. Nothing has really changed here in terms of performance, despite Byungsu and Dalda being new additions to the roster.
Yeah, Byungsu and Speed, Byungsu and Speed, excuse me, in particular have been impressing me so far this season as Liiv SANDBOX has been trying to fill in the shoes of, a lot of holes in their roster from the end of KDL Season 1, losing some key players, but now adding in, Byungsu coming over from Sensation has been a fantastic addition, and a lot of us were afraid of where Liiv SANDBOX would stand here in KDL Preseason 2 after these changes to their roster, but so far looking strong.
Certainly the case. Though the win streak was stopped, the 1-2 punch will continue. A team famous for their 1-2 finish win condition in speed, and they have continued to prove that they can make that happen here in Preseason 2. And it says, I can't do anything but win, that sign. So it's a bit of a meme these days. Like, I don't know how to lose. I don't know how to do anything but winning. And last time it was KWANGDONG who asked for the item god to bless with good items. KWANGDONG was blessed, so I think Aura is like, well, might as well give it a shot.
Yeah, man. It looks like we're at the beginning of a new faith being created here, right? I mean, if Aura comes through with this, might have some sacrifices being made to the item god.
Yeah, we're just gonna do every single trash talk liner is gonna be for asking help for the item god. It's just gonna be, it's gonna say like in parentheses 64, like at the end of the season.
Yeah, getting a look here at Liiv SANDBOX. So far have not been defeated in Speed Match. I actually didn't know that they're undefeated to this point as they're looking really strong. Reputation of the invincible fleet as, Hyunsu, Byungsu, and Neil, the top 3 names here in speed mode for this roster, are so good. And whatever trash talk they said back on them, but Aura with no trash talk, they just want the favor of the gods here.
Yeah, so maybe this, I don't know if the gods will shine or like look favorably on a mirrored version of the proposal to please give good items. I don't know, but at the end of the day, this one landed a little bit flat for me, Liiv SANDBOX.
I think they did this
first.
I'm pretty sure it was Liiv SANDBOX that did this the last time I casted too, was whatever they said back on them. And also that team didn't trash talk, so it's like 2 whiffs, man. You're at strike 2. So we get a look here at the speed track list. Liiv with the priority here in speed mode. We'll be picking Terracotta Twister as map number 1. One of the new maps, WKC Japan Circuit.
Yeah, Zigzag Timberland, also one of those tracks that you see Liiv SANDBOX pick all the time and have a lot of success on. And then New York Rally, I talk about this all the time as a map that I really think that Neil in particular, but Liiv SANDBOX have been great on. So really don't see anything out of the ordinary here, but picking Japan Circuit here as Aura is just very rarely left open is interesting. We'll see what they have planned here. It's a track that we almost never see actually so far here in Preseason 2. It's just been banned a lot.
Yep, and it looks like we're getting ready to go into track number 1, Wolf, as we're going to see Liiv SANDBOX face off against Aura here on Terracotta Twister to start off the day.
Off we go in this heated matchup between Aura and Liiv SANDBOX, starting as we often do on Terracotta Twister.
Yeah, one of my favorite maps for sure here at the KDL. As it looks like Aura off to a really good start. Definitely prioritizing the team boost here right from the gate, as Hero especially was highlighting that, doing so many cut drifts to try and build up that meter as best he can. And that extra blue boost that they're getting, Looning is just feasting on that.
He really is, and he and Nock now trying to control the top 2 spots. This is the Aura trademark, as Liiv SANDBOX have been so good at catching up from behind, so that's kind of the dichotomy of these 2 team styles. But Hyunsu is really preventing Nock from occupying that 2nd spot right now, regardless. With Neil in that last place spot, Aura do have control right now. With Nock, he is really trying to force this. It's basically a 2v1 against Hyunsu. Byungsu trying to do some aggressive inners here to catch up.
Yeah, now with Nock getting a little bit closer there on the tail of Hyunsu, it should be Aura's fight here in rank number 1 as they're looking to try and get back into that 1-2 position as we enter lap number 2 here on Terracotta Twister. A bit of a collision there as Looning does fall back, and now it's Nock and Hero here for Aura. Still trying to contest Hyunsu, and he's gaining ground, and oh no, Byungsu with a rare blunder there.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. I mean, that might actually cost them the race here, as it's still possible if Jimin can actually cut through here and get into that second place spot. I think that is really your win condition now as Liiv SANDBOX, but Nock and Hero, they know this. Going to block him out and seize. Also trying to make an aggressive play here. They need something to happen so badly right now.
Yeah, Hero able to work his way into first place there is, oh, that's some really tight lines there on the corner, but luckily everyone able to navigate that correctly. And here we go, only about 500 meters left.
And Jimin and Hyunsu trying to push for the 1-2 finish. It looks like they have done it. Yeah. 200 meters.
Looking really good for LSB, as despite Byungsu's, rare blunder right there, partway through lap number 2, able to deliver the 1-2 finish. We're Hyunsu and Jimin for Liiv SANDBOX, so track number 1 will go LSB's way. But man, that was a scary track for them.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, there was also that blunder there for the side of Aura where we had that collision right before Byungsu's, and that was what started making it look like Liiv SANDBOX have this one in the bag themselves, because they had 3 of those top 4 spots. But then Byungsu made his own error, ends up finishing significantly there at the back in 8th place. But I gotta say, this is one of my reasons why, I really love the 1-2 finish being a win condition, because it means that if your team makes one huge mistake like this, you can actually still win if your top 2 players can play basically perfectly and navigate those final moments, as we saw here from Liiv SANDBOX. And that's the power of knowing your win conditions here, and they played it brilliantly there at the end. So watch this collision one more time.
Yeah, Byungsu a little bit too tight there, clips that, and then also hits Neil on the flank, losing so much momentum. But this was the critical play here for LSB, as Jimin was able, with that tighter line, able to just barely eclipse Hero there, deliver the win, as for a long time, with Looning and Hero, and also Nock contesting that rank 1, rank 2 position for the majority of lap number 1 and then the beginning of lap number 2. I was thinking Aura would have a chance, but instead Liiv SANDBOX able to fight back, deliver the 1-2 finish, and now we're getting ready to go to Japan circuit. Liiv SANDBOX with a 1-0 lead. And off we go on WKC Japan circuit, Aura looking to tie things up 1-1.
Yeah, let's see how Japan circuit shakes out, as a lot of these tracks here in our World Kart circuit have been very wide open. I think that, based on my impressions here so far of Japan, it's a little bit more tight. You're not going to be able to off-road as much or take some, off-road shortcuts. You do have to kind of stick to the track, but there's a large amount of space here, and it's a pretty smooth track with not a lot of hairpins or anything like that, no tight corners. So it is pretty much about trying to get an early lead here, as Hero has done, and then maintain it, because it's very difficult to pass.
Yeah, and right there behind Hero for a long time, LSB was holding on to the next 4 positions, but Looting able to throw a wrench into LSB's plans now, as Aura looking to get back into form here with the 1-2 finish. Looting right now behind Byungsu as we enter lap number 2. Still a lot of track left to be played, but Byungsu here for LSB doing such a good job of holding on. I mean, we're looking here at Jimin all the way in the back ranks, but you can just barely see Byungsu, locking Hero at every turn.
Yeah, he's doing a good job of that so far. Hero, again, there's not a whole lot of angles you could take when you're close up here if you're outnumbered as Hero. You really just have to avoid collisions and then hope that you could take an outer and then avoid Byungsu's block. And he's done a good job of it, actually, now regaining that first place spot here, but Liiv SANDBOX in firm control as we move into this 3rd and final lap. And something needs to change here for Aura, as now there's opportunities for Neil and Jimin to create a lot of disruption. As, man, look at these tight turns here for Byungsu and Hyunsu.
Yeah, and once again, the 1-2 finish here in the cards for both Liiv SANDBOX and Aura, as it's going to be hotly contested in lap number 3. Hero and Nock trying their best to disrupt this as well as they can, but Hyunsu doing a fantastic job zoning out Nock. He knows that Liiv SANDBOX, with their position, have a nice spot of securing the win. Only 500 meters left to go, Wolf.
It's about that first place spot right now. We keep swapping it as Aura making a big push, and I think they're going to do it, crushing this one. 1-2 coming through. Final push there, so critical. And it looks like the Team Nitro usage actually just enough to maintain that top spot there for Hero. And ENCs do end up taking it, as Byungsu feeling the pressure, trying to take a more aggressive line there. He and Jimin as well, kind of falling back behind. The 1-2 does come through, but Aura on this relatively new track, right? This relatively unexplored track, very commonly banned since it is so new, will be able to take this one, as Ding the previous record holder will actually have his record broken by Hero this game around.
Yeah, Hero breaking the record, and I love that inner line that C's took right in the final turn to secure that 1-2 finish. It felt like he almost came out of nowhere with that boost, just able to manage the timing perfectly, come through in the clutch. Aura delivering a 1-2 finish as both track number 1 and track number 2 were decided by just those top 2 rankings.
Yeah, really bouncing back in a good way here. And Aura has been a team that was often defined by their item mode success, but we saw in playoffs there's a lot more to this team, there's a lot more to this roster, and here in Preseason 2 they are making waves. They have tied us up 1-1. We'll see which one of these teams will take the lead as we move into our third track of Forest, Zigzag Timberland. Off we go here, tied 1 apiece as a great start here from Aura on Zigzag, occupying the top 3 spots.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what happened there, but Aura was able to get a fantastic position here with knocking Hero in 1 and 2, and then C's with so much boost, able to shore up the flank, and we've seen time and time again on Zigzag Timberland, usually the team that gets the better start is able to maintain that position throughout their majority of the race, as it can be so hard to pass in these tight corners, and sweeping can also be so effective. It's very precarious, Wolf.
Yeah, exactly. And such a narrow track like this makes it difficult to pass because sweeping is effective because it's going to push your opponents into corners here as Looning tries to make an attempt of it. He wants to collide with Jimin and Neil as much as possible here as they occupy these 1-2 spots. They should be able to win the 2v2 if they can maintain that defensive hold. And you were talking about how difficult it is to pass. You can see there's not a lot of opportunities here for Hyunsu, even with some aggressive drafts, but the jump is good. Can't maintain the lead, though.
Yeah, just not enough momentum there for Hyunsu. Is now Looning entering the cards here. Let's see if he does a little bit of sweeping, or if perhaps he takes the pole position and Knocker Hero fall back. So might see a little bit of more team play coming out of Aura, as Hyunsu, he's been battling for that rank 2 position this entire time as we finish lap number 1, and eventually he's able to make the breakaway there with a nice draft line, but Knock and Hero, they're just so tight right now. I don't know if they can hold on to this, but Byungsu coming up their flank.
Yeah, Hero with a huge draft here with the boost tied into it is actually trying to crash his way through here, but it's a 1-2 that Liiv SANDBOX do occupy here. We're almost halfway through this second lap right now. Let's see how good your defense is, Byungsu, here on this roster. If they can hold on to these 2 spots here against Knock, the Super Observer, then they should be able to secure this win. And so far, so good. I mean, they are really holding on to this one tight. And look at Byungsu, he's just constantly checking his rears, but Knock breaking through. Liiv SANDBOX still with enough of a lead, though.
Yeah, Knock was able to slip by, and now his eyes are on first place. He's going to see if he can pass Hyunsu with a critically timed draft, and yes, he does, as now he's going to be the one playing defense, trying to zone out these remaining players for LSB, as the points are so close right now. Every single position matters as we enter the latter portion of lap number 2.
That first place spot is so critical. It's the one that's deciding everything right now. Hyunsu is going to occupy it for now as we move into this final 300 meters. Passed by Knock, though.
Yeah, Knock able to get that pole position, and that's going to be Aura converting it into a win just by a hair. Knock was able to supplant Hyunsu there for first place with some nicely timed drafting, excellent boosting.
And this is the player who sees the game differently than everybody else, Knock. He is able to see these tight windows. He's able to predict exactly the angle at which Liiv SANDBOX is going to take some of these turns. And to make it happen against Byungsu and Hyunsu, right? The new addition for Liiv SANDBOX, but then Hyunsu is really the leader of this team right now. That's impressive. And we talked about so much about how it's difficult to go through those narrow points on the track where when you turn, if you make that risky call and you end up colliding with that racer, it's going to be you who loses out. You're going to then hit the wall, and recovery is almost impossible. You might even drop back to 8th with a play like that, but Knock, he just threads the needle quite literally, and he did it like 3 times. There at the final moments, and Aura really relying on this guy, and it's, you know, I guess a less popular player, but man, he made a huge impact.
Yeah, well now Aura, 1 map win away from securing the first speed victory here against Liiv SANDBOX. Let's see if they can do it here in track number 4. We're going to WKC Brazil Circuit. And here we go on the Brazilian circuit as Aura looking to get the nice start they did on the previous track. Knock already off to a fantastic start, man. He has been a killer today. And oh, who is that on Liiv SANDBOX with a bad collision on the tires?
It was Hyunsu. Looks like here is maintaining that 8th place spot. We might get a zoom out on the map to see where he's at. Yeah. He did fall back there pretty significantly, and that's really unfortunate. Now, at least on this track, you can take some really aggressive pushes through the grass, and if there's no one to collide with you, if you use your boost correctly, you can catch up pretty quickly. This track is almost the exact opposite of our previous one, and that it's very wide open, and because it's so wide open, passes can be possible, but it comes at the real cost of your boost gauge, right? So making sure that your team has the amount of nitro required to actually use those aggressive grass cuts is exactly what these teams are going to be looking for. Right now, Season Knock holding 1 and 2 here, and they vastly outnumber the Liiv SANDBOX players here.
Yeah, and as we see in the picture-in-picture, Hyunsu is doing everything in his power to try and close the distance and, you know, provide some support here for Liiv SANDBOX, who desperately need it, with Knock, Season Looting holding on to 3v1 here in the top 4 standings. I mean, Neil, to his credit, he's doing everything in his power to hold on to that pole position and try and secure a win condition where he finishes in first and Liiv SANDBOX has the middle ranks, but it is just not going their way right now.
Neil is so smart, though. He stays on the right side of the track there, loses some speed and momentum, but can use his boosts where he's not going to have any collision and prevents the enemy team from playing defense, and actually gets up into the first place spot, which will give Liiv SANDBOX currently enough points to actually win this race as we move into the final one. Neil is just such a smart player. He finds the right builds, he adapts to the situation. And once again, he's done that here. 1 and 2 now occupied by Liiv SANDBOX.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with the lines coming out of Hyunsu so far. He's taking these corners so tight, just has the perfect read on exactly how to thread the needle and secure that win. Now is Liiv SANDBOX in the lead, coming here to the finish line. Hyunsu still holding on to first place. He will secure it, and it's actually going to be a 1-2 finish here for LSB. So despite that early mistake by Hyunsu hitting the tires, and Liiv SANDBOX basically playing a 3v4 there for the majority of that track, they were still able to deliver a 1-2 finish with some very creative, very aggressive lines.
Yeah, I really like how Neil, I mean, he's just proven time and time again he's a player who will come back from behind. He will find the right angles. He'll do exactly what his team needs to do in every situation, and this was no exception at all. And the way that he was able to pass them was actually taking an outer, taking the separate right side track, which will always cost you a little bit of speed. But if you're able to use that nitro effectively and get ahead, that's the most important part. And then you can open up them trying to attack you, which allows Byung-Soo to then catch up. And it was just a team effort here on the side of Liiv SANDBOX. This series is really delivering right now, as we will see that. Oh, yeah. Hitting it at that angle, that is really rough.
That's about as bad as it gets, as we see a little bit of another collision there. Oh, actually, Hero and Looting both took a ton of damage. That's why Hyunsu was able to move up the ranks there from 8th place into 7th, I think, at the end of that track, as now we're all tied up, Wolf. 2-2 here. This final track is going to decide it.
Yeah, now this is speed priority. It's Liiv SANDBOX's track, a one that they have historically been very good at. World Tour, New York Rally. Let's find out which one of these teams is going to take speed mode. Off we go on our final track here of speed. Liiv SANDBOX still undefeated in this mode this season. See if they can maintain that here, but Aura is looking fierce tonight.
Yeah, Aura, you can just see how much this team has improved from KDL Preseason 1 to KDL Preseason 2. With this addition like Looning, with the better synergy we're seeing from their players at the top ranks, is even when they can't get the 1-2 win condition, they are contesting it, man. It's been so close every single track, but now here in track number 5, Liiv SANDBOX once again in a commanding position here at the top with Byung-Soo, Hyunsu, and Jimin all holding on to the top 3 ranks. And I love this zoning we're seeing from Hyunsu. He's just barely colliding there with Knock, not letting him get any room to maneuver.
Oh man, and unfortunately Looting colliding there with his teammate as well. He and Knock running into each other, which creates a further lead here. So now Hyunsu is in perfect sweeper position here. Even though this isn't often his role, he can absolutely play it here for Liiv SANDBOX right now as Seas and Looting are going to pass him. You know, he's not as experienced as a sweeper as he is a front runner, and this is actually going to be a weakness here at Liiv SANDBOX. They don't actually really get a much defense out of this. Still occupying those first 2 spots, a single lap track here, but a little bit of a crack showing. Let's see if C's and Looning can capitalize on it. They need to so desperately.
Got some nice, low-risk maneuvers there by Hyunsu. Not really wanting to play his hand too much, because his sweeping position is something he has a little bit less experience with, but still doing a good job of threatening and also causing some disruptions here on Aura is Jimin, and Byung-Soo still holding on to those top 2 positions. Looting is going to try and close the distance, but I don't think he's going to have enough speed, as Liiv SANDBOX will remain undefeated here in speed mode, winning 3-2 over Aura in a nail-biter of a match.
It really was very close. The final track, though, completely controlled by Byung-Soo and Jimin, and Neil, who often sits back in the later ranks on this track and then makes a push to the end and tries to create a lot of problems for the team when we get close to the finish line those last 500 meters. Didn't even need to do it. He finishes in 8th place, but it doesn't ultimately matter here for Liiv SANDBOX. A lot of the camera time was spent on Neil because he does often make those late pushes. He's actually 3 seconds behind Knock here in the finish time. Might have taken his hands off the wheel just simply because he knows that they won with the 1-2. But ultimately, man, once again, Liiv SANDBOX come out on top on speed. Aura was so close against Kwangdong last week, so close against Liiv SANDBOX here in speed, but it's just not enough to cross the finish line. And I have to say as well, I need to give credit where it's due. Jimin has really stepped up for this roster in a big way. He was the item ace. He proved himself in solos. The team gave him a chance to be part of the main roster, and he really has come in, day out, and proven that he can hang with the best of them. He's not just the item guy. Now, who is just the item guy is Tech. Now, this guy is arguably our best item ace in the KDL. And I think that his power has been nerfed slightly in terms of this patch, because he was the timing guy. He was the guy who likes to push hard for those late finishes. And now it's more tempo-based. He's like, yeah, Dalda fighting.
Dalda's in. Good luck, team. Yeah, Neil getting swapped out here as a speed specialist will be replaced by Dalda. And yeah, I love what you're saying there about Aura, man. I mean, the Noctec duo in particular are just historic here in Kartrider, even going back to Kartrider League in years bygone when they used to play for the AURAvs, as they were just that dynamic duo that you would want to send out any single time you're playing in item mode. And they were a big part of why this team succeeded in KDL Preseason 1 in item, but as you noted, with the changes in the meta, with the new balances and attack being more of the strategic play here in KDL Preseason 2, it hasn't really been going their way. There's still a little bit of an adjustment period here for Aura, but we'll see here with map priority whether they will be able to take this to an ace match.
Yeah, let's take a look at the tracks chosen here. As once again, Sphinx's Riddle, I believe Aura actually picked this against Kwangdong as well. Then Polar Halfpipe and then Motherload, so we won't actually see them pick up London Knight. It's actually Liiv SANDBOX who will do that. So we're going to see a pretty crazy track list, to be honest here. We're not going to Cogwheel Crush. Shark's Wake is also a track that we've spent a lot of time talking about this preseason too so far. Has just been kind of a item spam fest. There's not a lot of aspects of the track itself where you have a lot of architecture that you're operating around. There's not a lot of turns. It's really just like, all right, throw those items out and constantly be fighting. It's basically a team fight track. So that one's gone, taken away by Liiv SANDBOX.
Yeah, I feel like even if we were playing with the KDL Preseason 1 rule set on the previous patch, it would still turn into that team fight with how high the rotation of the items is on Shark's Wake. But we'll have to see what happens should we get there to track number 5. Instead, we're going to be starting out here in track number 1 on Desert Sphinx's Riddle, or needing to win item mode to go to an ace match. And here we go on Desert Sphinx's Riddle. Both these teams so far have been struggling a little bit with this new meta and item mode coming over from KDL Preseason 1. I think Liiv SANDBOX, although they have historically always been, that speed mode team, much like the AURAvs.
Yeah,
they were good in item mode for a long time in KDL Preseason 1, right? But here in KDL Preseason 2, they're kind of at the same ranks with Aura, where it's about 50-50 whether they're going to win any particular track.
Exactly, and it's kind of like, I think the adaptation period is just going to take a little bit longer here, whereas preparing for Preseason 1, all of these teams were playing on that patch for so long. They can really hone their skills. And it was a skill set that you could adapt even in your solo queue games, because all you had to do was actually hold those items and then push to first place, right? And now it's about communication. It's about how you're going to use your items to actually try to block out that first place position. And a lot of the time now in item mode, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the meta and about like what's being held in those first 2 laps, and a little bit about who's getting hit more than we used to, because we used to be okay, who's got magnet, who's got boost, who's actually pushing through. But now lightning, much more impactful. EMP, much more impactful. Hyunsu doesn't have one, so we'll be eating that UFO here. Still maintaining first place, avoids that bomb.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot more complicated here with this new rule set, and a lot more aggressive also, as we see many missiles coming out, and also water wisps attacking Jimin and Hyunsu, the lead racers here. For Liiv SANDBOX's Aura is looking to gain ground, and we have occasionally seen one racer try to pull away from the pack and just stack up shield after shield after shield, as we were talking about before the show even started today. Not really seeing that here so far on Sphinx's Riddle.
Yeah, it hasn't really been that successful. Instead, what we're seeing is a lot of protection here for Hyunsu from the rear. As you can see, he's eating a lot of damage, but a lot of the time it's further attacks behind him as the team's trying to support him from behind that way. So he actually pulls ahead, and because he's holding 2 lightnings here, he's definitely not the one they want to have in first place, because double lightning has become more common on this patch, and you want to use that to support your team. And in fact, they have triple with looning here as well. So you need to push somebody into that first place spot, though, and it's going to be Tech, it looks like, who's got double boost. And this is such a crazy combo. Double lightning, first one to come out, second one comes out, and he's got boost. Here he goes.
Yep, the lightnings pop, and then here come the boost, and Take with so much speed. Feels like we're watching speed mode right there. The double nitrous, the wombo combo coming out of Aura as, pranks the item gods. I guess it worked this time, because that was perfection. They had so many lightnings in the bag, and even though it was Tech that finished there in first place, even I think it was it might have been Knock on the rear. It was another player on Aura who also had a magnet and a nitrous.
So they had, Tech has 2 nitros. They have a defensive magnet. I don't know who used it, but somebody's pulling Jimin back. So Jimin's trying to boost through as well. He's getting pulled back. They're stacking those lightnings together all at the same time while Tech is prepped for the double nitro. He knows that he's got this window. He's stacked it up. And this is the kind of play from Tech, right? He's actually found a timing using the defensive items here and the lightning to actually do basically magnet rush in this meta. He's figured it out. They had the right tools, and this feels like peak item mode Aura, what we saw in this first track.
Yeah, that was so cool. And I also loved keeping the player that had 2 lightnings in the front of the pack to eat aggro for as long as they did, because, maybe Liiv SANDBOX is thinking that's going to be the racer who's going to try and make a breakaway, but instead Aura, with a subversion, they're able to come through. Let's see if they can repeat that performance as we move on to track number 2. It will be World Tour London Night.
Off we go, Aura, bringing back some of that item mode magic that we saw in Preseason 1. See if Liiv SANDBOX can tie things up here as we move into London. And London, a track that has a lot of different paths. You can take a lot of shortcuts, and it's definitely very tricky in this meta.
Yeah, it is a complicated track, especially because it plays a little bit to the beat of its own drum with that final closing stretch towards the finish line. There's that one turn you got to watch out for. There's the Ferris wheel, as we're seeing right now, and there are a lot of plays that can be made right here that can be hard to read when you're in the game going up against your opponent. Is exactly what they have planned.
Ooh, that barricade was pretty slick.
Yeah, that was a nice barricade there popping.
Yeah, if you can actually barricade on a turn like that, it's very hard to aim it correctly, but if you do that, it's definitely going to catch somebody off guard. Hyunsu will EMP that UFO and actually push into first here. He's also holding now 2 shields, picks up a second one so he can block that. He's trying to get that tempo advantage we were talking about. You get a lot of shields and bananas in first. He is going to drop that banana down now and maybe pick up another shield here, dodge the barricade. He's doing a great job of maintaining that lead, and now he's got a bunch of teammates to defend him too, and they have double Angel on top of this. He's got EMP.
Yeah, but there are already 3 lightnings on the field right now for Aura, so I'm going to be really interested in seeing whether they decide to cycle any of those out, because it kind of feels reminiscent previously, because Tech,
he's got the double boost again.
Once again has the double boost. Knock right now, he's the lead racer, at least for now, as C's does pass him with the lightning. But look, Knock and C's, they both only have lightnings. Their role here is to eat aggro and allow Tech to try and close the distance and get into a position where he can just do the Hail Mary play.
He's got the double nitrous up, he's in first, here comes the lightning, but G-Man actually with the Angel here is going to be able to avoid that first one, and we need to see another one come out here. We're still in the final lap here. There's a lot more space to go, but Tech dropping back a little bit, no longer has those boosts.
Yeah, final lightning does get popped as we're now only 300 meters away. Boosts are out of the bag right now, and it looks like Liiv SANDBOX Dalda, although the UFO abducts him, does have enough momentum to carry him across the finish line as Liiv... Aura, excuse me, it felt like they had all the tools in their tool belt, but the positioning on the track just wasn't there to actually make the play. Take was a little bit too far back to really get use out of the double nitro.
Yeah, he was boosting basically into a pack of players, and that's the part of the track too where you start to hit those turns before you go into the weird ramps and stuff like that. So it's hard to actually, there's no like straightaway for him to go, all right, I'm just going to take a long outer or go diagonally away from that pack and speed through during the lightning. And the first lightning is absorbed by that angel, and then that's when G-Man pushes through and gets massively ahead, and then they had enough of a momentum lead from there. It's still same game plan as we saw on the first track. I think just much harder to pull off on London Night.
Yeah, it's definitely the track that I think, out of the 5 that we've picked, is going to favor this strategy the least. And the fact that Aura went for it yet again makes me think that this is the meta that's been working for them, you know, in their in-house lobbies, in their scrims, as they've been practicing for this match heading into, you know, what is going to be inevitably one of the pivotal matches of this tournament for them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you can take this series off of Liiv SANDBOX, you're going to be in a great position to potentially catapult yourself into those finals, as we're all tied up now 1-1, getting ready to go to track number 3. It will be Glacier Polar Halfpipe. The race continues on here on Glacier Polar Halfpipe. Aura sees, hanging back a little bit, trying to get a little more items in his bag, provide some support for his team. As
some failed barricades here.
Yeah.
You want to just cycle those out as quickly as possible. I mean, more effective on some of the narrow parts of this track, obviously, but still using it at this point. A little bit ineffective as Byung-Soo nearly took a swim.
Yeah, I was surprised by that one, man. That looked really scary. I didn't realize it was going to be so close, but instead just like in a bouncy castle, basically just jumps back into the sky and continues on now as Jimin with double shield will be leading the charge here for Liiv SANDBOX, pulling away a little bit from the pack. He should be able to eat a good amount of aggro here from Aura's players.
Yeah, it is, of course, use both of those shields, picks up a banana and a shield. We'll toss the banana out early. Going to maintain that shield. Banana avoided here by the members of Aura, as the UFO will actually connect with Looning, allows him to pass for just a second to eat that. And Hyunsoo, 2 boosts here in the front, but we're only on the 2nd lap, so see how he chooses to use those. Once again, Aura just keeps picking up these lightnings. They have one on C's who's at the front here, so this is ideal if they want to try to make that setup happen again. But they just don't have the numbers of lightning this time around that they've had the last 2 tracks, so I think they're going to have to do something a little bit different here.
Yeah, we'll see exactly what happens. There still is 1 more lap left to go, as a lot of these items just getting rotated out. Just CC's holding onto that 1 lightning, does have a nitrous, which I imagine he will also be rotating out, trying to get a double lightning or perhaps an angel shield to help support his players. And on Liiv SANDBOX side of things, a lot of defense. They have double angel shield here on Jimin. Byung-Soo in the lead right now, just continuously rotating through these shields as he tries to absorb the aggro.
There's a lot of aggressive items here for Aura, though. I don't think he can hold this lead here anymore. He's going to have 1 more shield, but there's Wisp, bombs here. He's going to get UFO, doesn't have an EMP, and this is the most important moment, the final part of the 3rd lap here. So, what?
Oh my goodness, it's a catastrophe. So many racers falling into the water there, as Dalda now leading the charge, as well as Hyunsoo on this shortcut. So they are so far away from the rest of the pack. Dalda just speeding along. He does have an EMP in his bag, but not much more than that, as Hyunsoo now eating some aggro, even coming through with a block there on Knock, picks up a rocket, so Dalda will have a clear stretch to reach that finish line. And Liiv SANDBOX, I mean, that double shortcut. 2 players going up the shortcut, 1 eats aggro, 1 just full sends it. Perfect.
That was really well played by Dalda, and I think we kind of missed it on camera, so I hope we get to go back and see it. But he was clearly, as you say, like trying to get up onto that high ground, and then you have the opportunity to attack from 2 different angles there. All the while, some chaos happens on the lower bridge where somebody got hit by, I think, a rocket, and while they were spinning, they like knocked people off, and that actually really hurt the momentum of Aura, because Aura looked like they had enough attacking items there to actually maintain their advantage and then continue to push through. They didn't expect the shortcut. They didn't expect the chaos to happen there on the low ground. There's like 2 things I want to see. I want to see both like what really went down and why those players fell off, as well as the push there on the top, the upper part of the track, the shortcut. We may see both or we may see neither. It's not up to me, guys, but those things looked a little bit unclear, and I'm not sure if we'll get a replay or not. But at the end of the day, it is going to be Liiv SANDBOX taking the lead here, now moving to match point.
Yeah, match point, just 1 track win away from securing a 2-0 win here against Aura. I mean, they've been looking good, and yeah, we are going to get this replay. So this is when Byung-Soo gets abducted here, and then Tech tries to come in, and I think it actually
weird landing there.
Yeah,
It's like just landed awkwardly.
I don't know exactly.
While in lightning, maybe like it's hard to say because the lightning animation kind of bugged out there if they were actually being lightning, because it looked like the lightning animation was starting, and maybe they then lost the speed they needed to make the jump. Bizarre scenario.
I'm not sure exactly
Car
what
ride is
went
crazy.
Down. Item mode especially is very crazy, as now it's match point. Liiv SANDBOX one track win away from sending us home with a victory here over Aura. Can they pull it off on Village Town Hall?
Off we go. Liiv SANDBOX with a win in speed mode, and that second win in item here, meaning they are on match point. One more win here will win this series for them 2-0.
Level of SANDBOX is Jimin just slowing down to try and get 2 boxes and still only getting 1 there on the flank.
Yeah. It happens sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
Happens to all of us. As that's going to be a double right there. Got to take that angle to get both boxes. Do what the pros do, and you too at home will get 2 items instead of 1. As you can see, Tech falling 100 meters behind here of Byung-Soo. They have an Angel to protect him.
Yeah, Liiv SANDBOX actually has a ton of defensive items right now. Daldo holding onto 2 Angel Shields. Byung-Soo with an Angel Shield himself, as well as that solo shield, absorbing a lot of aggro as another one gets popped as we got our lap number 2 here. And all this defense here for Liiv SANDBOX means that Aura is just going to continuously cycle through these aggro items. And
Byung-Soo's lead continues to grow. Now, we have seen this strategy fail, though, in a lot of our races where you get a massive lead like this, but eventually just get burned down. Now, these lightnings will be denied by double angels. So they burn both angels here, but the Byung-Soo lead is so significant. You can see it on the track map here. Look at how far away Dalda is with Jimin now playing defensively, and then know that Byung-Soo is even further ahead than that. You saw him go around that corner here. Look at him on the map. He's now already in his 3rd lap. He has got to be like 400 meters ahead.
It's one of the biggest pullaways we've seen here.
It's a 3-second lead
so far.
from C's. So I mean, from Dalda, I think probably about a second and a half at least. And I mean, this is the strategy that very rarely works, but he's got shields for the lightning.
And the attacks just keep coming in here on the players for Aura. They're trying to close the distance.
He's got enough rockets, but he's not in range.
Yeah,
okay,
Looting
one more.
Also gets slowed down here as Byung-Soo just continues to rotate through those shields. Also now has an EMP, so he cannot get abducted by that UFO. And we might just see Byung-Soo run away with this one, Wolf.
Oh, man, he's magneted, and it doesn't matter. He's got Dalda on his side, but C's, though.
Yeah,
C's pushed ahead for a second.
That lead is getting closer and closer, only 100 meters left to go. Water Wisp does come in, and it connects with Knock, and it's closer than we thought it might be, but still, at the end of the day, Byung-Soo able to convert that massive lead from the start of lap number 3 into a round win as Liiv SANDBOX is going to 2-0 Aura here, but I gotta say, man, it felt a lot closer than that.
Yeah, it really did feel like a very close series, and this is, unfortunately for Aura, the story of how the regular season has gone against these Titans, defending champions in Africa, now against Liiv SANDBOX, just falling a little bit short. As Byung-Soo, he had a massive lead, they defended him, he constantly rolled shields, and we've seen a lot of teams actually defeat this eventually on that 3rd and final lap. Aura almost were able to do it, but not quite, as the defensive setup was just too good there in the final moments. But I think also this strategy is especially good against a team like Aura that's more timing-oriented with their pushes to try to win rather than tempo-based or trying to push somebody out into lead. That's never been Tech's style. That's never been how this team likes to play. And, you know, I think SANDBOX here, they saw an opportunity, they took a risk, they were up a game in the series. They're like, let's just do that one-man army. Let's defend the carry style of play here on item. And we don't really have a term for this, actually, but it is a strategy that's becoming more and more prevalent. Maybe we call it one-man army. I don't know what we're going to call it. We'll call it something better than that, but it is a style that can work. Hasn't worked much, but we've seen a lot of teams try, and the SANDBOX having, in my opinion, the first real success we've seen.
Yeah, but they did bleed a little bit there in speed mode. So far, they were undefeated not only in speed sets, but also in rounds. And Aura brought that one all the way to match point. So props to Aura for that, as they continue to look better and better here in KDL Preseason 2. Only time will tell if they can really stand against these Titans once they reach that postseason, as it still feels like, despite this loss here to Liiv SANDBOX, if they can continue to perform at this level, I feel like they are destined to reach that top 4 spot.
I think so too, and I think that when we move into postseason too, if Aura make it there, which right now, I mean, It's possible they do not, but based on what we're seeing in the eye test, I think it seems very likely. They've had a very tough strength of schedule as well, playing against both Liiv SANDBOX and Kwangdong this early into the season. I think they're probably going to make it, but I think when you move to the format of postseason, where it's a much longer series that you're going to play, where you end up moving those best of fives into best of sevens, I think that Aura will look better there, as they did in preseason 1. So there's definitely a pretty big chance here, as Insu and Hyunsu fan there saying, I'm an Insu fan, but now I've got the Hyunsu jacket, because Insu's taken a hiatus, of course, in military.
Yeah, but I do like what we're seeing out of Aura a lot here, and I feel like over the course of KDL Preseason 2, as we have a number of weeks left to play here, we're going to continue to see the item mode strategies kind of develop the same way that we saw them develop in KDL Preseason 1. And
Yeah.
Aura, especially with the Noctech duo, you just kind of feel like inevitably they will get back to a level where it's difficult for other teams to really contest them here in item mode.
Yeah, I think that it takes time to adapt on patches. I think this patch doesn't have necessarily a dominant strategy, which is a good thing, and teams will figure out their own way, their own flair, and that's what I'm looking forward to, especially in item, because it's a what do I call this? A mode, I guess, where there's so much variance, right? There is an element of RNG, but there's also an element of control. That's why teams are still winning consistently on it. It's not about what items you pick up; it's how you use them. But what I've been most impressed by is Aura's improvement in speed. And that was something we saw in postseason, and that's just always going to be a big threat. It also means that their players are going to do better in their solo matches, for example, in the future too. So becoming a real powerhouse team. Love the new jerseys. Love the new attitude they're bringing here to KDL PS2.
Yeah, they're showing that they can hang in speed with the best of them, and that was always their weak point in KDL Preseason 1. So if they can shore up that item mode, I mean, who knows? We might have Aura getting another top 3 here.
We are, of course, done with only our first of 3 here tonight. We will have coming up after a short break, Sensation versus Sungnam Rocks. We'll see you then.
Nobody stopping me. Nobody stopping me. Nobody stopping me.